Welcome to Chats with the Chairman. I am your host and chairman of the IICRC Board of Directors, Kevin Pearson. This show is all about the volunteers that make IICRC work. And today, I have a special guest on. I actually think that we should probably call this edition of Chats with the Chairman, we should probably call it Chats with the Chairman Squared, because Paul Pearce is a past chairman of the board as well. And so today we're going to talk to Paul, see what he's been up to lately, and see kind of how he got involved in the Institute. So welcome to the show, Paul Pearce. Welcome, Paul.
Well, hi. Oh, that was a nice intro.
Yeah, I see your tambourine man made it into the intro.
I like the tambourine bit. That was fun. That was one of those sort of situations where, you know, I was coaxed into it a little bit, but actually when I got up there, I just didn't want to leave, you know. And the guys have been in touch with me since, saying, you know, we're on tour soon, and you know, because of the pandemic, they've had to stop. And they said that they're on tour sort of later this year, and am I still interested? So, you know, I'm sort of getting a little bit fitter and what have you. I've been working with my colleague here.
See that.
And Mr. Stewart, so to make sure that it all functions well. But yeah, it's a great intro.
Yeah, that's great that you're going to have a gig after the pandemic's over. You know, we got to keep you busy.
Well, we're going to try something, you know.
That's it.
Yeah, it's you know, times are hard, you know. So any gig that I get given is, you know, it's sort of worth going for. You know, I mean, the thing is, at the moment, I need a haircut as well. We can't even go to a barber's at the moment. So, and I don't, you know, Sandra, and you know, whilst she's sort of looked after me for all sorts of things, you know, make sure I get my water and my food and all the other bits and pieces, but I won't let her anywhere near me with a pair of scissors.
Okay. Okay.
Or even one of my carpet shears, because it would be too dangerous. I'm not sure I'd end up with both my ears or whatever. But anyway.
Well, I keep threatening my wife, Deborah, telling her that one day I'm just going to shave it all off and just go completely bald. So, yeah, maybe one day I'll do that.
That'll make you taller, though. You don't want to do that.
Okay.
I've got to tell you, I've been watching these chats with the chairmen. They're brilliant, absolutely fabulous. And you've got some real great characters there. But there was something that about the deer behind you. And I know we spoke earlier about it, but I didn't tell you the story about my situation. I was working at a stately home, and this is down in Norfolk and what have you. And Holcombe Hall is the place, fabulous, gorgeous place, one of the National Trust properties. And I went down there, I did the quote and what have you. We went all the way through the property, and there's I don't know how many rooms there, but it's massive. And I set up a date for you know, like a month's time to do 2 weeks of cleaning there. Turned up with one of my lads and what have you. And as we drove into the drive, and the drive's a mile long before you get to the big house, and there was a couple of guys on a pickup, and they had shotguns or guns or whatever. I don't know whether they're shotguns. I'm not a gun person, but they were killing these deer. And I'm actually outraged. I'm thinking, wow, I mean, they're poachers, because, you know, I've seen them on the TV. And so I'm actually, I want to go and stop them or what have you, but well, they've got guns, so I better keep away from them. And so when I went up to the estate manager at the front of the house, I said, do you know you've got guys down there? They're actually killing deers. You know, they're killing the deer. And he said, yeah, he said, we have to cull them every year. He said, and those guys they work on the estate and what have you. He said, we have something like 1,200 deer. And he said, they nearly double every year. So he said, so it's fine. So although I thought I knew a little bit about, you know, how things work on these estates, I didn't realize that at that time. But anyway.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, hey, this is good stuff. Yeah, as you can tell from the background there, I could talk all day about that stuff. So
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. Hey, so with the couple questions for you on the Institute.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I've known you for a long time. You were immediate past chair, I think my first year on the board. So you had just rolled off of, I believe, 3 years of being president / chairman at the time. And, but I don't know, I don't think I know kind of how you got involved in the Institute originally. And you're an instructor as well. So talk about how you kind of got involved in the Institute and being an instructor.
Well, it's a great story and a great question. Thank you for that. And but my first introduction to the IICRC was actually through a guy called Tom Hill, as you remember. And Tom's a fabulous guy and supporter of the industry and has been for many, many years. And I'd actually been reading, I was trying, in those days, I was early instructors. I'd been an instructor about 10 years in the UK. So I'm going back 25 years ago now. And I read about this indoor air quality seminar that Tom had put together. And it was up for sale. You could buy the video and what have you. And so I'm dealing with indoor air quality at the moment. It's quite big and what have you. So I actually contacted via, I don't know how it was through the institution, but the institute, and managed to purchase the videos. But before I got them, Tom had actually given me a phone call and phoned me up a sort of early or late evening one day. And spoke to me, said, why did I want them and what have you? It was interesting that they were going to England and so on and so forth. And then started telling me about the IICRC. And I thought, oh, hang on. I've heard of it, but not enough.
Right.
And so, I said, well, I'd like to know more about that. And the next thing is I get a chat with Kenway Mead. And I spoke to my board, the National Carpet Cleaners Association, said, we need to get involved with these people. And so I was invited with a colleague, Derek Bolton. We were invited out to Saratoga Springs, was New York, upstate New York, and to a meeting. And that was the first time that I sort of entered into the IICRC throng, if you like. There was people like Lee Pemberton there. There was Jeff Bishop, Tom Hill, Kenway Mead, and a lot of others. Have you? And it was a phenomenal meeting. And from that, we proceeded to, as an association, buy shares. But I wanted to go further. I actually wanted to sit at the table. And so, of course, as a shareholder in those days, you did get an automatic seat on the board.
Right.
And from that process, I worked my way through the situations, what have you, the positions, became vice chair or vice president. They created another situation as well because IICRC wanted to grow international. And I've also decided I wanted to be an instructor. So I was backwards and forwards to America a few times, doing different programs to get my instructorship. Doyle Bloss was one of those, Barry Costa, all the good people and what have you. There's good people now as well. I'm not dismissing any of the newer instructors or what have you, but in those days, they were the ones that I knew. So I went through their programs, became an instructor as well. And I've been with the organisation ever since. And I can't see me ever leaving because, they do great things.
Yeah, right.
They do things like chats with the chairman.
That's it.
Done in my day.
That's fascinating. Now, I didn't really, I don't think I knew that whole story. So that's interesting. Hey, if people have questions for us, they can type them into the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. There's a question and answer section there. So if you got a question for Paul, make sure to type it in there and we'll get to it. So you're also a shareholder rep, and you mentioned this. Talk a little bit about the shareholder situation, the shareholder model, kind of how it works from your perspective and what all it means for the organization.
Well, I mean, the shareholder model, it overall is an inclusion thing. I mean, it's an odd situation where we don't need to go into that process. But overall, I mean, while I was VP and what have you, because I'm shareholder and a shareholder rep, and still am, and still proud to be at the moment. Not seeing to change that, but the process was that we would actually be included in everything as we are now and what have you, in sort of moving the organisation forward. We elected the directors and things like that, what have you. But I think it was difficult because some of I think in the earlier days of being a shareholder, the reps would change too often, and I think although you do need them to change, I do understand that. But the idea of being the rep is we actually I'm not going to say we own the organisation, but we certainly have some sort of structure in moving it forward and assisting with what you do day to day. Because I think as the board of directors, they're the mainstay of it. But the shareholders, we meet at least once a year. And at the moment, we're actually, thankfully, with the pandemic. No, that's an awful thing to say, thankfully, the pandemic. But I think the pandemic has allowed us to meet more with Zoom and things like that. So we've got more ways to do that. So that's a far better way of doing it. But the idea of being a shareholder was to actually support the directors in moving things forward. There's been situations where the shareholders have wanted a little bit more and what have you, and thankfully the board of directors listen to that process, because that's what it is, isn't it? We're shareholders. We're there. We see the outside of what's going on, and we also want to impart some of that to the board of directors. And there's where you've got, I don't know, there's 16, 17 directors now, 15 directors, sorry, I'm in shareholders. I'm not sure how many shareholders you've got. 3.
There's 19, I think, right now. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's quite a few different organizations around, mainly in America and what have you. Most of them come across there, but they have different thought processes and what have you, right? We have different ideas in the UK and what have you. And trying to sort of merge that together, which I think was what IICRC or IICUC originally tried to do. To create that process. When I was chairman or president, one of the things, I've probably been punished a few times for it, but one of the things I did was to actually reduce the board down a little bit, because it was a little bit, there was 27, 28 people on that board, and whilst they're all wonderful people and what have you, it wasn't modern day stuff. You didn't need that amount of people. And so it was one of my, while I was president and became chairman from that process, was to sort of reduce the board a little bit. So we actually reduced it to 15. We gave each board member a 3-year term or what have you, and a few other bits and pieces. But still the shareholders meet to actually, to elect them, but also they take part in it. And over the last few years and what have you, with the change of our administration process, and having the GRC has helped a great deal, because we're included a lot more than we used to be and what have you.
Paul, it's hard to believe that change from 27 board members to 15 was a decade ago. It was 10 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, because I was that's the year I got on the board, is the year that change happened. And so that's how I know that. So, but hey, you're also on the international committee. You're the chairman of the international committee, I believe. What all's happening with the international committee? What kind of things are y'all working on?
Well, we're working, I keep talking about inclusion and what have you. We're trying to work on standardizing exams and what have you, making them anglicized, Australian-sized, Japan-sized, or whatever it is. Actually, it's Asian, I don't know what the Japan thing is, but we can't really do much about that, because if they change it into their language totally. So, but that's one of the things. We want to make sure the exams work for the various countries. We're also working on standards at the moment. The trial one at the moment is in Australia with the S500 to see if the Standards Australia can adopt that standard. So we're working on that as well. We're working on one or two other things in the UK that again, we want to make sure that the marketing is right for each country as well, and I think that's happening now. But we're wanting the uniformity of the websites and what have you, so it's easier for our certified firms to sort of navigate those areas and what have you. So those are some of the things. I mean, I'm the chairman. I've got a good team of people at the moment, and we've got a meeting coming up next month. So where we sort of get together and collate what we've been doing. We've got Australia, we've got New Zealand, we've got Canada, we've got UK. Japan is, although they're international, because of the language issues and what have you, I think that's dealt with from the GRC as far as I'm aware.
Right.
The idea is we're trying to grow the organisation, and we can't just grow it from America. We've got to be on the ground in the various countries. We know the rules and regulations here. Some of the policies and procedures that America run by don't quite work in the UK. They don't work in New Zealand. They don't work in Australia. So the idea is not to change it drastically, but to make it work in those countries. I think that's so important. I mean, the other thing, of course, is trying to it's the registrants, the certified firms, and what have you, is to make sure the message is the same but relevant to the country that they're in. That we're in at that time. So hopefully that's what we're doing.
Well, that's awesome. I know it's a big job to do that, because we've never really had, we've gained some traction in the UK and Australia and New Zealand, but I guess it never really gained as much traction as I would have hoped we would have. And so getting that off the ground, doing some things with the standards, like the Standards Australia that you mentioned, hopefully this is going to help jumpstart some of that thing and get us some more registrants, more certified firms in those areas.
Yeah, I think, with the pandemic, I mean, obviously things were changed because we'd had offices in Australia, we had offices in UK, and we just got settled down with a new office, that we were actually using the NCCA for the administration for the UK, and so hadn't really been running that long. And this is, just things happen and what have you. The pandemic came along, but I think unfairly for the UK, none of IICRC's fault, but we'd had 4 changes of management. Admin had decided they didn't want to do it anymore or whatever. So, registers would get misplaced in some areas and what have you, which is a shame. But I think with the two international GRC staff that are overseeing the process now. And I think that's going to help us greatly. With the admin being taken back into GRC, nothing wrong with that. It's done. I mean, I think, as we move on, I think things will change. At the moment, you're doing the right thing by looking after, you have individuals that look after the international side. So. Correct.
Hey, so real quick before we do a poll question. So tell me what courses you teach. And what are your favorite IICRC approved classes?
Oh, well, I teach commercial carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, rug cleaning, house cleaning. Those are my 5 ones that I teach for IICRC. I teach multiple other programs and what have you. I think my favourite really has got to be upholstery. I think there are so many problems surrounding upholstery, and I think upholstery, by being able to teach upholstery and have an understanding of the fibres, I think I seem to grasp that in sort of 40 odd years of it being in the industry. It also can sort of run into rug cleaning as well, and of course I love rug my rug cleaning side as well, but we don't do so many of those. But now I'm actually helping rewrite the rug program at the moment as well with the IICRC. But
you're also chair of the upholstery standard, aren't you?
No, I'm vice. Yeah, I'm vice chair of the upholstery.
You're vice chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's with Ed Hobbs.
With Ed. Yeah.
And I think we're doing great. We've got a good team. It's moving forward, and we're getting to the end of this writing the standard now. So we had a good meeting last week with the Standard Summit.
Right. So, all right. Well, hey, I think we got some poll questions, Paul. Why don't we do a poll question? We'll see how many, because they all revolve around the UK here, Paul. So we'll see how many you can get right. I know it's tricky. So what is the number of IICRC certified technicians in the UK?
I would actually say it's 330. Am I allowed to say? Have I got to?
Yeah. No, you go ahead and say what you think it is.
If I say, then everybody will get it right, won't they?
Well, unless you're wrong.
Okay, well, 313, I'd say.
Okay, and let's see. We'll reveal the answers at the end here. Let's see. How many IICRC instructors are in the UK?
There are 2 in the UK.
There are 2. Okay. And let's see. How many IICRC schools are in the UK?
Do you know, I would say 3.
So we got an answer of 1, 5, or 2, Paul.
Yeah, actually, I didn't see that. I should have scrolled up. Then I'd say 2 then.
Okay, so you got the first one right.
Oh, right.
That's 313. So you're right there. But I think the staff says that we have 6 instructors in the UK.
Okay. Well,
no, you know what they're telling me? They're not telling me that it's it's 2 instructors in the UK, right? They were telling me, I thought they meant answer 2. So, and then, and then you got the last one right as well. So there's 2 schools. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, hey, you did great. I just can't read what they're trying to tell me.
Well, there's too much going on, isn't there, at the moment?
There is. You gotta, you have to do all kinds of things here. So, hey, so you might have kind of already answered this, but I know you've done so many things in IICRC over the years. From being chairman to standards to working on the tax and other committees. But what's the single most rewarding thing that you've ever done in IICRC? I don't know, maybe there's multiple, but if there's one, what would it be?
Well, you know what? I guessed you might ask a question like that, and I think I've done quite a few things. I'm not going to be popular for saying this, but reducing the board, working on that strategy, changing that process at the time, it was necessary and what have you. But the biggest thing was to actually get the shareholders to agree, because obviously they have to agree to do it. Well, that wasn't something that the board turned around and said, "Oh, we're going to do this." This was something the actual shareholders voted on to move it forward.
Now, why do you say that wouldn't be popular? Because I, for one, really, really appreciate that right about now. Not having to deal with 27 board members. I don't know how y'all did it back then. That's just a huge board. And if everybody's got to talk on a specific topic, that would take forever.
Well, that was the problem, and there's nothing to say that the people weren't good, but when you got 27 people, and bearing in mind I was the only Englishman in there, controlling 26 American guys, very alpha male and what have you, and women as well, because there were women on the board. It was hard to say the least, but the and everybody wants to be heard, and that was the other thing. And again, nothing wrong with that, because you've got a voice, you want to sound through and what have you. But sometimes the same thing was said many times, and so that was difficult. Yeah. But I think the shareholders, at the time and now, needed a pat on the back, because to allow us to do that process, to allow us to, change the dimension of the and structure of the board of directors was so important. And I actually think it actually helped us move forward. We brought in a president, a paid president at that time. That was our goal and what have you. But, we eventually brought in the paid president. But that was where we're moving towards, and our own admin staff and what have you. So, there were so many positive things from that, So I think, I say not popular. Why I say it is from the shareholders.
I knew what you meant. Yeah.
I'm talking honestly. I mean, there are some shareholders that say, we'd still like to be that. Well, yeah, I get that. I understand it, but I think times had to change. So, and I think that was an important part of our history as well. It was there's lots of parts of our history. I think bringing Millie Washington to employing her during my tenure as well. I think that was very important, because look where standards are now. I mean, my goodness, we've got 19 standards.
That's true. That's true. So that was a huge one. Yeah. It was. Hey, you want to do some trivia real quick before we? Let's see. Trivia. Okay, well, let's see.
I don't know any.
Let's see. Let's see if we got a trivia question here. You know what? Let me see. Let me get over to it. See if I can find the trivia question. And you know what, Paul? Getting old stinks. You got to put on your glasses to read anything.
Mine have gone skew with.
Yeah. But let's see. It's true. All right. How many? Oh, well, Paul, you just answered that one. We can't ask that one.
All right.
Let's see. We got a giveaway, a Zoom, a giveaway item, which is, let's see. We'll find out what it is in just a minute. How do you locate an IICRC certified professional?
The IICRC Zoom Power Slim is perfect for traveling. Charge your laptop and smart devices at the same time.
So you want me to answer that one? Okay, now I should know this.
You should know it.
I should know this. So I would actually go to iicrc.org. And if I was international, but it's the same. There's an international area there, but otherwise I would go to iicrc.org. I would click on find certified firm. Right. Yep. Yeah. I click on that. It will give me an area that I need to find that person. For the area from that they're in, the type of certified. No, it's a certified firm. So in other words, the area, and it will come up with the area. Who it is.
Yep. And you got it right, Paul. You go to the locate the certified firm section of the website. So that's exactly what you do. But we do have a winner, and Joseph is the winner. So congratulations, Joseph.
Well done, Joseph. Let's clap as well. How many people you got with you?
How about that? You didn't know the studio audience was so big, huh? It's the deer. They make a lot of noise.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Actually, I see all the family are behind you at the moment, all wait with their hats and coats on. Are you going somewhere soon?
Yeah, we're headed out right after the show. It's spring break here in the U.S., so I got 2 kids on spring break, one in college, one a senior in high school, both on spring break this week. So we're going to go down to the beach.
Very nice too.
Yeah. Hey, so Paul, I really appreciate you joining us today. I had a lot of fun kind of catching up, learned a few things that I didn't know. I hope everybody else kind of enjoyed it and learning a few things maybe that they didn't know either. But any last thing you'd like to say to everybody out there before we sign off for the day?
Well, one of the things I would like to say is, stay safe, of course, during the pandemic. But while you're, staying safe and you're in there, then there's nothing wrong with you actually going online and, sort of joining an IICRC certified school or course or whatever, because it's worldwide now. So, you can be sitting in England and doing a school in Australia or whatever, or even America, even Canada as well. So,
right.
So you can always learn while you're sitting indoors. But really and truly, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, IICRC, for what you do. And, I enjoy what I do with IICRC, and just, looking forward to coming out of what we've got lockdown in the UK, because we're not even allowed to drive down the road unless we know where we're going. Well, usually know where I'm going anyway, but, unless we have an essential reason to go there. So it's tough at the moment for most people. But,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
nice
I appreciate you joining us today, Paul, and actually bringing along your special guest there behind you, Mr. Stewart.
Please be quiet.
All right. Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Paul Pearce there. Thanks, Paul. So just want to remind everybody before we sign off for the day here that our live stream classes, I think Paul talked about that a little bit, are still up and going. So if you haven't taken advantage of live stream classes, you can actually get the AMRT live stream until the end of April for sure. It may extend after that, but it's in a beta process right now, as well as a lot of our other courses. So don't forget the certified firm webinars if you are a certified firm, and our new IICRC website will launch this summer. So stay tuned for that. We'll have some more details on that. But also, if you have not nominated anybody for our 3 industry awards, the SciGant, Keith Williams Award, and the Founders Award, go to iicrc.org. And you can nominate somebody for each one of those 3 awards there. And those nominations close on April 6th. So if you could go there soon and get that done, that would be appreciated. So until next month, when we have Daryl Paulson, also past chair of the Institute, on the show, I am the current chairman of the board, Kevin Pearson, and we'll see you next month.